Okay, so let me say that over. I've been I've been missing parts of the video because I'm not recording everything. So remember when we have a verb, right, or an action word in English, it's pretty much all one word. So if we wanted to say explain, then that's just what I do. I explain things. But if I explained it, so that would be a past tense. It's in English is all one word. We except for if we say something like will explain, if it has like a helper with it or something like that, will explain. So, but in Samoan, we have a tense marker and then we have the word. So at this stage of our language learning, this word is not going to change. We don't change this word. What we do to change the tense is we modify or we add a tense marker before it. So if you guys from last Thursday, we had like a worksheet and we had all these different tense markers on it. So that's pretty much where this is going. So we have the same word right here. Okay. Let's take till 8 after the hour. As I let people in and stuff like that. Let's take till 8 after the hour and then we'll go through these. So fa'amatala is to explain. So how will we say explained? How will we say explaining? Just translate each and every one of these. So we'll go to excuse me, 8 after the hour, and then we'll come back and we will do a review. If you have questions, just hit me up in the chat. Okay, there we go. All right, so we're about to do this review, and you can just shout the answers out as we go along. And if you, sorry, I'm still letting people in. And if there's an awkward silence, again, I'll just say it myself. But again, so fa'amatala is to explain. So how will we say explained in Samoan? Na fa'amatala, yep. Okay. Tango got that one. So it's we're talking about a past tense. So explained. So in Samoan, we would say, or we would write it out this way. And we're building, so there's other ways to say things, but since we're building, we're one block at a time. So na fa'amatala. So fa'amatala didn't change. We use a past tense marker. So the na is like the action is over and done. Okay, so maybe I explained or you explained or we explained. All right, but the action is done. All right. Explaining. How do we say explaining?
Olo'o fa'amatala.
Yes, olo'o. Olo'o fa'amatala. Fa'amatala. All right. So olo'o, remember any word in English. Oh, I think someone. Okay. Yeah, any word in English that ends with ing is going to be olo'o. Walking, talking, explaining, slapping, crying, not happying. Jeez. You know, being happy. Actually, that would be like there's a way to say that in Samoan. So that's when I go back and forth, I always get confused. But anything ending with ing, driving, stopping is gonna be olo'o. All right, olo'o. Yes. Explains.
E fa'amatala.
Yes. E fa'amatala. So is a habitual tense marker. This is what I do. He explains the situation very well. Like that's just it could be in the past, it could be in the future, maybe something in the future, but it's just something, it's a quality of this person. So it's present tense, but it's a habitual. Okay. And that's this one might be the most common one because it's present tense, but it's just what the person does. You're explaining what they do. It's does everyone understand that? So if Matala explains, she explains the surgery very well, like, or he explains that story, very badly. That's what they do habitually. Habitual tense marker is all right. Has explained. What's that tense marker? Yep, ua, ua. So ua, pa'a matala. All right, so it's present tense, but I always use this the you like to update. So if like for example, if I'm in a class and somebody wasn't listening and then like, man, the teacher ain't saying nothing, like, what is he talking about? And then I turn around, it's like, "Ufat matala le fayaonga," like, the teacher has explained it, but you were over there talking. So I'm updating the person on what happened. Okay, so it's or um one of my favorite examples is, there's, let's say there's two of us in the room, and well, no, there are three, and then one person gets up and leaves, and then somebody comes back in the room, say, "Oh, what happened to Goggins? What happened to them?" And they say, "Oh yeah, Uosavali, like has walked the woman. She has walked." Okay, so you're updating the listener on what happened. Okay, so um that's what the ua is. So if has explained is ua matala. So has explained, whatever it is. All right. And when I say whatever it is, that's the subject. So that whoever did the action, that is what comes after ua matala. And we're gonna get into that today. Actually, that's the rest of our day. So we'll explain. How do we say that one? Yeah.
Olea.
Yep. Yep. Olea. So olea. So this one is like, I don't know how to make the Fatma Mafa over the A on that, but oops, matala. Okay, so this is our future tense marker. Olea, olea. Okay, and yep, olea. Yep, D, Nate. Yep. So olea matala. Okay, so we'll explain. We'll explain. Hopefully, you guys are seeing the pattern here. The verb hasn't changed at all. Fatmatala, fatmatala, fatmatala. We add our suffix. If you want to equate it to like the English suffix, we put it with the tense in the front. So explain, past tense. Okay, explaining, present tense happening right now. Olo'o. Habitual tense. Fatmatala. Has explained. I'm updating you. Ufat matala. Will explain. Ule'afat matala. All right. And then this can also, especially in everyday Samoan and like, yes, exactly. In everyday Samoan, people might just say fat matala. They'll abbreviate to just ah. Okay. Just like olo'o. Yep. Olo'o equals ing and not. Yes. Yep. You can look at it like that. Is there a difference between I will explain and you will explain? Yeah, we're gonna get into that today, Ari. We're gonna get into that today, because that's when we're combining the tense, action, and the subject. So that's actually what we're talking about today. So we'll get into that. Don't let me forget to use your example. You will explain. I'm gonna copy that. All right. You will explain. I will explain. All right. The last one is was explaining. Was explaining. Oh, no, no worries. No worries. Ele faina. Yep. Sa matala. Exactly. So was explaining. So it's past tense. So if I'm talking about, let's say I'm taking you back in time and I say, well, at this time, man, I was walking down I was walking. Okay. At this time, I was explaining to the people, Safat Matala. So was explaining. Exactly. So it's just like that. Oops, typing in the wrong thing. Safat Matala. All right. So was explaining. So this past tense. That's the difference between sa and na. All right. Na is past tense, but the action is over and done. Sa is when it's also past tense. But I'm telling you, oh man, at that particular time, I was doing this. I was explaining. I was walking. I was talking. I was acting. I was, swimming. I was doing the action. All right. But um a lot of times when you're listening to people speaking and some like they'll interchange them back and forth. So you just kind of, you just have to, you know, and here we just learn like the actual what it is, but in real life, they might say it a little bit different. Um, but that is the difference. A lot of times I hear sa and they will interchange sa and na like, and I want to say, man, that would be like a nah. But you know, if you were explaining yesterday, would it be nah? Okay, so um yeah, so if I say, well, not necessarily, because if I were saying, okay, yesterday at this time, let's say, so it's nine o'clock at my time right now. So if I were to say, yeah, yesterday at this time, 9 o'clock, um, I was teaching a class, I would say, sa. I would use sa. I wouldn't say nah because I'm not done with my action yet. Okay. But if I were to say I taught class yesterday, so I taught class and it was over and done. Um, you know, not na Faingalwenga. The action is over and done. My work is done from yesterday. But if I take you back to yesterday and I say, man, at 9:19 or oh, okay, you got it. Yeah, so if I take you back in time and I say at this particular time, this is what I was doing, then I would say sa. Okay. But I do want to just let you guys know, because people use them interchangeably all the time. And I don't know, for some reason, a lot of people like to say sa. Regardless, I'm just, you know, but the difference between na and sa is that sa, the action is not complete, whereas na is over and done. All right. Even the native Samoan speakers, you know, interchange them like that. So, well, I hope I didn't leave you out there. Sorry. I'm not the best multitaskers. Oh, thank you. All right. So, let me erase all of that. Let's get into our new stuff. All right. So we kind of already talked about this. This is just kind of a review. So we have our tense marker, right? So the tense marker, then we have our action. Okay. Okay. So to make the action a past, present, future, okay, um, that relies on the tense marker that we use. Remember, na or sa, past tense, ua or lo'o, e. We'll talk about te. That's present, and ole'a. Those are what's gonna dictate whether our action is past, present, or future. Command tense markers are like yeah. And I know you guys heard this like every time right before I got slapped, that yeah, pa, you better do this, you better do that. Sei, I didn't hear this as a kid because this is more of like it's a polite way, like a polite command. They'll say like, you know, sei, and then they'll say like you sit in the front, sei no full, and then they'll say, and we'll get into all of that, but like they'll say sei and then the action. Okay. So it's more like I'm commanding, it's a command, but it's more like a polite command. Whereas, yeah, you know, yeah, some people connect with that. You connect with that. So like, yeah, and then but that's actually it's actually a tense marker. Like, do this. I'm telling you to do this. So ya no fulalo, ya kuilunga, stand up, sit down, that sort of thing. So, but these are all dictated by our tense markers. The action word or the verb pretty much stays the same. There's ways where it changes, but we won't talk about that right now. All right. And then the next thing, okay, no. So tense plus action equals our action phrase. So we've already talked about that. Now let's review our subject phrase, because what we're about to do is we're going to combine our tense and our action and our subject, which goes back to someone's statement earlier. And we're going to put all of this stuff together. So remember, our subject is going to be our O now tense marker, our limiter, which is going to be le, se, lene, lena, all of that, right? This, that, these, and those. And then whatever your noun is, so if I were to say the boy, then I would say oletama. If I want to add an adjective, oletamaleanga, like the bad boy, oletamaleanga. So we have o, le. I don't know if you guys can see the hand right there. O, le, and then tama is our noun, and then leanga. All right, the bad boy. So we have our adjective going after that. Or right here, we have, like this girl right here, we have oletene pozzo, the smart girl, the smart girl. All right. So if the noun itself or the noun phrase or the subject phrase has no action to it, of course, we have to add, well, not of course, I'm sorry about that. We have to add our oletene pozzo, because there's no action to it. We're just identifying who this is on the screen. We're saying, the smart girl, oletene pozzo. So we say our O, our limiter, okay? Our noun is tene, our adjective, the way that we describe the girl is going to be pozzo, pozzo. All right? And then if we say olo'o, Matala, and we just talked about this combination right here, explaining, and then letene pozzo, the smart girl. So we have, let me write this out. We have, where's that? Okay, we have olo'o, which is our tense. And this goes back to that one question, and I forgot it already. We have our action of Fatmatala, and then we have our subject. Our subject is, if it were by itself, it would be oletene pozzo, okay? And we had a sort of a lesson on this part right here. Yeah, we did have a lesson on this. The subject is going to be oletene pozzo, but we don't need an O, because the O, remember, is a this is a subject tense marker when it's by itself. When it's a standalone noun or a standalone subject, we would say the smart girl, oletene pozzo. But now look, we already have olo'o. We got olo'o as a tense. We don't need it to say olo'o fatmatala oletene pozzo. We don't have to say that's the second O, because we already have a tense marker. Our tense marker is olo'o. So just drop the subject tense markers, okay? So let me erase that one. So now we have our tense is olo'o. We have fatmatala is our action, all right, to explain. So explaining, and then we have letene pozzo. We have the smart girl. So the smart girl is explaining, if you flip it around. So this is where a lot of I was going to say American, a lot of English speakers get confused, because in Samoan we would say olo'o fatmatala letene pozzo, explaining the smart girl. This is how my uncles talk, and some of my aunties are smarter than uncles for some reason. But like all my uncles are like explaining the smart girl. When they first come here, and they speak exactly this way. Explaining the smart girl. So, and this is why I think, because they lead with the tense, the action, and then our subject goes after that. All right. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm not sure if it does. If it doesn't, we're about to go further into more detail with that. Let me let you in. Are you good? Okay. Yeah, so we're on yeah. Yeah, you're like a half hour in. Okay. Yeah, we're good. Okay. All right, so tense, action, subject. So we talked about this phrase right here. That's the subject phrase, okay? The tense and the action goes together. We know that. At this point, the tense and the action goes together. So if I say ole a, and then I say savali, all right? Ole a savali, and then I say letene, all right? So both of these together make one phrase, tense and action. And then if I say the subject is letene. What does anyone know what this says right here?
The girl would like to walk.
Yep, the girl will walk. Exactly. The girl will walk. So we have a future tense marker, and then we have our action of walk, and then we have the girl. The girl will walk. Okay. I think you guys are a lot faster than I'm probably moving so slow. I just never like anybody to get lost. So tense, action, subject. The girl will walk. The girl will walk. All right. Now let's add a little another element to it. So if I say natusi letama maletene, how does that go? We're still on tense, action, and subject, but this time we have two subjects. So what does this one translate to? So whenever, okay, even like when we start doing our Tusi Paia assignments or like the Bible assignments, and the girl and the boy just read. Very close, very close, very close.
The boy
So
and the girl wrote.
wrote, exactly. Yep, the boy and the girl wrote, yes. All right, so we have and just do it like this, break it down piece by piece. Now just remember that where we're at today as far as this week, so the action and the tense are going to go right together. So we have a past tense, right, the action is over and done, so they wrote. To see is to write, but if it's over and done, wrote. All right, so wrote. Okay, let me do it a different way because I can't write right now. We have wrote. Okay. And then we have, okay, so combined together, we have natusi is wrote. Okay, now we have letama maletene. What does that mean? I think you guys actually said it already.
The boy and girl.
The boy and the girl. Exactly. So then in Samoan, well, at least the word for word translation is going to be wrote the boy and the girl. All right. But when we translate it in English, it's going to be the boy and the girl wrote. Right. So doing a lot of these kind of translations is going to boost you up really fast. Like you would be really surprised how fast your Samoan is going to go up if you do these kind of phrases right here. Because the main thing is just flipping around the boy and the girl and then wrote. Because in English, we don't talk like this. We don't say wrote the boy and the girl. We say the boy and the girl wrote. But it takes a while for your brain to translate stuff. So just think about it. If you have a native Samoan speaker standing in front of you, speaking really fast, and they say wrote the boy and the girl, cries the baby and the grandma, and they're just saying all these things, but they're flipped. You would understand it, but if they spoke it a little bit slower, but they're of course they're not going to do that. So tense, action, subject. It's just a matter of reprogramming your brain to think natusi letama maletene, right? Na savali letama maletene. You know, it's just the tense and the action, and then there's two subjects doing the same action. Okay. And we have other examples too. So you know, it's great. Get comfortable with this one, or not too comfortable, because we also have other ways to say stuff. Oh, I'm sorry. I just didn't let you in. Sorry, I didn't see you up there, Danny. I didn't see you. Okay, so we're gonna do this one together because I don't want to spend too much time. So, and this is great because whoever just came, whoever missed the first quiz, we're gonna that we did by ourselves, we're gonna do this one together. So Fatmatala is to explain, okay? And then smart girl. We kind of
Sorry.
had this one already. Smart girl.
Will,
Oh yeah, go ahead.
how do you say read or read?
That is Faitao. Faitao.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Yep. Faitao. Yep. Maro. Okay. So explaining is Fatmatala. Smart is Poto. Girl is Taine. So how would we say the smart girl is explaining in Samoan?
Olo'o.
Famatala de Tenepoto.
Yep. E Fatmatala le Taine Poto. Oops. Fatmatala le Taine Poto. Okay. So what we have here, oh no, I'm sorry, is explaining. It is explaining. This would be it explains.
So wouldn't it be Olo'o?
Olo'o. Thank you. Yes, exactly. Whoever said the first one, that was great. That's explains. But if we're talking about like happening right now as we're talking about it, like there was, you know, she's explaining. She's still talking about it. We're listening. She's explaining. Okay, so olo'o fa'amatala le tene poto. So explaining the smart girl, or the smart girl is explaining. So does anyone have any questions on that? Okay. If you do, you know, feel free to hang out afterwards. I told my kid to be quiet and go to sleep. So I think we're good now. So the man will get married. So fa'aipuipo is to marry. To marry. And then for a man, we can use let's use tamaloa. We use tamaloa.
Ipo de Tamalo.
Yep, exactly. How do you say the name Goggins?
It's Goggins.
Goggins. Okay. So yeah, so she had it exactly right. So she said ole a fai puipo le kamaloa. Or I'm sorry, ole a fai puipo le tamaloa. Either way, I'm used to say K style stuff. So ole a fai puipo le tamaloa. Okay. So we'll marry the man. But you know, it's we flip it around. So the man, le tamaloa, will get married. Will marry. You know, we'll get married. So ole a fai puipo le tamaloa. Fai puipo. Okay. The sky has gotten mawa. Mawa is to get. So this is not a full sentence, so it might throw some people off. But the sky has gotten, and the sky is langi. So if you hear like langi, lalo langi is the earth, langi is the sky, right? But the sky has gotten.
Ua mawa.
Ua, yeah. Oh, oops. Ua mawa. So tense action. What is our set? Lelangi, yep. Ua mawa lelangi, and then whatever you know, the sky has gotten what? The sky has gotten you know, whatever. Actually, we're going to talk about that part. Let me not jump ahead. So ua maua le langi. So the sky, and then has gotten. So you see how a lot of people it's listening to me. I'll just say from my experience, listening to me was the hardest part because I had English down very well. I had a lot of Samoan words down very well, but then I think that made it harder for me to put it all together because I was trying to say in my brain lelangi uamawa, like when most people didn't speak it like that, so I was trying to say the sky has gotten, and then I didn't even know anything about tense markers, so like I'm giving myself more credit than I should have, but that's why I never got the language until I got into like my 30s, because I was trying to make it an English thing, and it's just not. So if you can reprogram your brain within these 8 weeks that we have here, I think you'll do a lot better than I did. All right. So the teacher was speaking. So tautala is to speak. And then we have I didn't put teacher there. Teacher is fayaonga. Fayaonga. So how do we say the teacher was speaking?
Kaukala le whaiaonga.
Okay. What was our tense?
It's past tense.
Sa.
Yeah, it's definitely past tense. Yep. So we have sa tautala. So was talking or was speaking, and then we have lefayaonga, the teacher. Exactly. Thank you so much. So sa tautala lefayaonga was talking, was speaking, the teacher. So good. All right. For the purpose of time, let me find one other one that's a little bit different. We'll start. Was searching. Okay, let's do the last one. Malamalama. Malamalama is what's that mean? I'm sorry. How do we translate number 8? The father understands.
Ua malama lama le kama.
Yep, exactly. And I guess this was supposed to be a trick question because there's a couple different ways, and ua is definitely one. Ua malama le kama. And that's, just imagine that with the fatma mafa over it. So the father, le tama or le kama, and then understand. So this more specifically would be like, has understand or has understood. So he didn't have the understanding before, and then you're like, does he know what he's talking about now? Yeah, I'm sorry, like, yeah, he understands now. He gets it. I've been telling him all this time, like, when I do the dishes, but when she does the dishes, then so you're updating him. But there's also another way to say it. If we were to say
Malama.
right,
Eh.
exactly. So he understands, like, let me just write it out. Malama lama le tama. And let me look in the chat. Yep, exactly. So like he gets it, finally, and this is his understanding now. All right. So the first one is ua malama lama. So yeah, the update is he finally gets it. Ua malama lama le kama. And then this one here is e malama lama le kama. Even in the same conversation, they can be interchangeable. But if you want to add more context to it, depending on the situation, it could be ua, it could be e. Okay, so that's the difference. Both of these are present tense markers. One is you're updating the listener, and the other one is you're just saying like, yeah, this is, he gets it. E malama lama. All right. So we got about 19 minutes. Let me Move a little faster. If does anyone have any questions on any of this stuff here? Let's see. The tense marker. Oh, yeah. So okay, yeah. So the tense markers are challenging for a lot of people because we don't do this in English. And in English, to me, after I figured it all out, English is a lot more harder than the Samoan language. But we're so used to English. So if you want to put past tense, you know, in Samoan, we just add the past, before the action. It really just takes a lot of practice. The cool thing is that you don't have to conjugate verbs though. What does conjugate mean? Yeah, conjugate like ing after the end. Is that what you mean?
Right,
Some
like
people,
he
yeah.
does, I do, they do, like you have to change it for each subject, but in
Right.
one you just have to change the tense, so it's kind of nice.
Right. Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. So it's I feel like it's a privilege to learn. I hate to say it like that, but I learned English first. I learned the more difficult, unnecessary way before, but I think after I learned the Samoan way, it just makes much more sense to learn it like this than to learn it the English way. The English way is so like hard and unnecessary, but we're so used to English that it's like it makes it hard to learn other languages. That's just my opinion. This don't take that as fact. But yeah, conjugate. Yeah, I've been conjugating a long time. And, I think it messed my understanding, my life. it messed my stuff up. So um yeah, I've been conjugating far too long as well. So let's move on before I forget what I'm talking about here. All right. So if you guys remember, because we're about to do some exercises with these, and these are very important. I remember our pronouns are like a'u, right? But if it's by itself, we're gonna say oa'u, which is I. Oi, this should actually have you'll never see it written like this, or very unlikely see it written without with a taufi. You'll probably see it written like this, like oi, like you. But if it's by itself, it's gonna be oi, you, oia, oia. So him, her, or it, oitaua, right? If it's by itself. If if you have a tense and an action before it, we drop the o and it's gonna be itaua, right? So the ones on this side right here is if it's already with a tense and an action, right? So we just drop the o. If it's by itself, that's what standalone means. Okay, if it's by itself, we would say I, oa'u, you, o'oi, oia. Okay, him, her, or it, oita'ua, like us too. Oi la'ua, like them too. Oi mato, like all of us. And then whenever we drop the O, all of these are the same, but when you drop the O, that's because it probably more than likely comes after um a verb that already has a tense marker with it. Okay. And we've already talked about these, but I'm just throwing it out because we're about to have some examples that use them right now. Okay. So malo. All right, so natusi oe ma'au. Natusi oe ma'au. Does anyone know what this is?
You and I wrote.
You and I wrote, exactly. If you can you know, so you and I, so we got our subjects. So someone once told me like just read it from the middle and then go out and come back in, which is I didn't understand it at the time, but you look for the subjects, you and I, right? And then you go out and you come back in. That's exactly what this is. Tense action subject. You read from the middle, which is our subject, but you have to be able to identify the subjects. You have to know that oi is you. You have to know that a'u is I. So that's our subject. So we go from the middle, our subjects, and then we go back to the beginning and we say natusi, wrote. You and I wrote. All right. Now, the new thing, and it's actually not new because we talked about this when we're talking about subjects. When you want to connect one subject to the next subject, I'm sorry, to another subject, we just add a ma. Ma means and. So it connects one subject to another subject. Natusi oi, ma'a'u. You and I wrote. Okay, so but in terms of connecting the whole tense, action, and subject together, again, if you just want to translate things together, some people it's easy for them to start in the middle, subject, oi, ma'a'u, you and I, and then past tense, write or wrote. So past tense, write, you and I, or you and I wrote. All right. I know that throws some people off, but other people, they get it so fast and they're like, okay, now you're moving too slow because I got it. Well, that's the same duplicate side. All right, now this is we have two subjects here, but it's a little bit different. Okay, so we have natusi, letama, and then we have lepepa. Natusi, letama, lepepa. Does anyone knows what this is trying to say? Because it's not a complete. There's things we need to add to this. What is natusi? We already established that.
On paper,
Wrote. Okay, I heard. And then what was this part?
the boy,
The boy.
the paper,
Exactly. So we have wrote, we have the boy, and then we have the paper. Now, we wouldn't say the boy and the paper wrote, because that, even if you just said it all the way out, natusi letama malepepa, it wouldn't make sense because you're like, the boy and the paper wrote. What is that? What are you talking about? But the boy probably wrote the paper, right? Or if you say the paper wrote the boy, that might be like in a poem or something like that. But more than likely, in common sense terms, the boy wrote the paper. So we have one subject is doing the action, one subject is receiving the action. So more than likely, the one that's doing the action is going to be letama, right? And then the one that's receiving the action of wrote or to write is going to be the paper. So the boy wrote the paper. So we express that in Samoan by saying like this: Natusi wrote, and then eletama. This is the doer of the action. So one way that you can express it is by saying like by the boy. So this is the author of the action of Natusi. Okay. So wrote by the boy the paper, or the boy wrote the paper. So even though we got two subjects, it's not like they're both doing the action. One is doing the action, one is receiving the action. So natusi eletama lepepa. All right. So the doer of the action is going to receive this right here. The e. Got a question? I guess the boy wrote the paper, but I think that would be natusi letama ilunga or lepepa. Yeah, that would be something completely different. Because it's like the boy wrote the paper. Sorry, the boy. Well, I won't even get into that because altogether it wouldn't make sense. It might throw some people off, Marco. But I'll leave it right there. We're about to get into that though before we close out today. So, but the doer of the action, I think the main point to take from this, the doer of the action, when you have two subjects, subject number one, subject number two. This is the one that's doing the action gets the e. You see that? That's where you put the e. And you know that because you can even rearrange. We could say it a different way. We could say natusi le pepa eletama. So it don't matter if we say natusi eletama le pepa, which is, you probably hear, especially a lot of older people say it like this. Natusi eletama le pepa. Wrote by the boy, the book, the paper. I'm sorry. Wrote by the boy, the paper. right? But because we have the e is what who marks the doer. We could say it like this. We can rearrange the subjects. That subject you can put it in the front and say natusi le pepa e le tama. And for me, I'm just throwing this out there. This is not in any book or anything like that, but I hear more people who kind of learn Samoan, they'll say it like this because they're saying wrote the paper by the boy. So I think to a lot of maybe American speaking Samoans, they might say this might make more sense to them. I don't know. I probably should have left it out. Wrote the paper by the boy. Wrote the paper. Wrote natusi le pepa, the paper by the boy, as opposed to wrote by the boy the paper. So, but the other version is more correct, or both. Both are correct. There's no one is more correct than the other. Because that would be, if I were to say what is more correct than the other, that would be me negating what they do in like Australia and New Zealand, because they, they probably would listen to this and be like, oh no, we do this over here, we do that. So I just kind of want to stick to the literature, because we have a worldwide diaspora. Although we're a small portion of people, people just speak the language very differently. So so if someone asks who wrote the paper, would you say Eletama or Oletama? You could say either one. You could say Eletama by the boy, or you could say the boy. I would probably say just Letama. And actually most people would just say Letama. Yeah, or Lekama nga, wrote the paper. Or you could say Oletama. Yeah, either one would be, people would understand, and then people, they actually say both of them. Okay, does that make sense? Okay. All right. Well, yeah, if you have any questions, just hang around after. All right, so let's do these. Since we only have a few minutes left, let's translate this into English, but tense, action, subject form, because this is actually a little bit different. So the boy will close the door. What would be our tense?
Olea.
Okay, yeah, that would be okay. We could do it some one way. So actually, I was looking like will close, and then, but yeah, let's do it like that. Close. Okay. So yeah, I obviously phrased the question wrong. So if we were to say tense, action, so olea, and then close. Anyone knows the word for close?
Kapungi.
Kapungi. Yep. Kapungi or tapuni. Okay, so olea tapuni. So this is close, and this is will close, and then we have the door, and I'm sorry. Then we have the door and the boy. So we have two subjects. All right. So what's the boy?
Eletama.
Eletama. Okay. Yep. Eletama. So that's actually what we were going for in the end. And then the door is what? Eletama. Yep. Faitotoa. Le faitotoa. Faitotoa. So we have, let's just break it all the way down. We have our tense is a future tense. Our action is tapuni or kapungi, which is to close. And then we have two subjects, letama, right? So that's subject number one. The subject number two is going to be lefaitotoa. All right, now who did the action? And as I forgot who said it in the chat, eletama. That's who did it. Okay, so since we only have a couple minutes left, eletama, the boy, is the one that closed the door, so we give them the E. If we wanted to, we could reword this. So let's reword this. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, well, what if we switch it up? Like, my guess was ole a kupungi le whaikakoa le kama.
Exactly. That's
That-
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you just say this a minute because I was gonna ask how do we say this, but let's change it up a little bit. So all we do is we just take the we remove that, and then we would say, oops, I'm sorry. I'm supposed to change this other le tama, and then this is supposed to be le faitoa. Oops. So we have will close the door by the boy. And like I said, to me, just from listening to, it's almost like I know if you learn Samoan in America because they would say it like this, it's because it just makes more sense in American or in English American. So by the boy, as opposed to saying it like this. I think a lot of the native Samoan speakers say it this way. Okay. So when people say yeah, people would definitely say that. So that would be our other that would be the first one. Oh, I'm sorry. Right? By the boy, the door. So people would say it both ways. It's hard for me to say don't say I don't want to say don't say it like this or don't say it like that, or most people say it like this because we're talking to the world. Like there's people here from different parts of the world and they just say it differently. So just know that the marks our doer of the action. We have two subjects, letama and lefaitoa. Okay, the marks our doer. All right, and the other one receives the action. The door receives our action of kapungi or tapuni, or le kapungi le kama le kokoa, as opposed to this one right here. We're talking about the same sentence. All we're doing is we're just rearranging it, and we're saying le tama after le toa. Okay, I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, just hang around. I'll be here until everyone has their questions answered. We're pretty much at the end of our time. So if you have questions, just hang around. Other than that, Manuel Leaso, Manuel Po, I'll be here. And thank you. I'll see you guys on Thursday.
Thank you.
After lava. Manuel Po, Pastor Fu. I got to mark that we need to start here. Okay. So we start our locations.